Okay, let's see what else we got. We got a couple of posts here. Haas cut com. Let's go ahead and select that. We'll pick OK. And we're going to do the when you run this on the machine, obviously, this hole here at the big hole here at the top is all going to be cut out already. So we're just looking at the operations needed to do the hole pocketing and the thread milling. So let's do the hole pocket. Let's go ahead and post that. So what we got here is we got the hole pocket, and we have a G40 which is turning off the cutter comp, and then we got a G41 which turns on the cutter comp for that dimension, and that continues on down for the entire thread, or the entire pocket, excuse me, and it should turn it off at the bottom. Okay, so we got cutter comp in the hole pocketing. Let's go ahead and look at the hole profile. Post that. Okay, very similar. We've got a G40 to turn off cutter compensation at the start, and then we're doing a G41 turning on the cutter comp for the perimeter diameter of this hole. This blue motion here at the bottom, okay, that's the full cleanup pass. That's going to be assigned to the G41, where you can offset it at the controller. Now, just a note about cutter compensation. If you're not familiar with what it does, there are some misconceptions out there that it's only for compensate for your tool wear. Yes, you can compensate for your tool wear, but that's only going to come into play if you're doing production parts. Okay, so if you're running 100 parts an hour, okay, you're obviously going to have a lot of tool wear, and every time you do your dimensional check, say every 100 parts or every 50 parts, you do your dimensional check. You can make those adjustments on the controller using the cutter compensation offsets for each of the tools. That's how it's used. One of the ways it's used in production. But in most cases, our users are not running production. Well, they do in some cases, but a lot of other users don't. Okay, so what would you use cutter compensation for if you're not running production? Well, think of it this way. Any operation that you cut, okay, you're going to have a setup, you're going to have stock, and you're going to have a tool, and you're going to run it. So the very first time you run it, okay, it may not be exactly positioned correctly, depending on the geometry, depending on the cut, what you're doing, okay. You may measure that while it's sitting right on the table, okay, and you may see that it might be a little off in the X or the Y, not because of the program, but just for the variations in how you might have set up the part on the machine, okay, where your work zero is, etc., etc. So what I'm getting at here is you can use the cutter compensation to dial in the accuracy, to make some adjustments at the controller to get this first piece the way you want it. Because your first piece in your particular application is the only piece, okay? So you can use that cutter comp to make some adjustments while the part is on the table, okay? So that's a good thing to remember about cutter comp. Okay, so let's also look at the thread. Let's post the thread out. Okay, so here is our thread. Again, we got G40, which is turning cutter compensation off. And then we have G... And then we have here a G42, turning cutter compensation on, okay? And it should turn it off near at the bottom. Right there, it's turning off cutter comp. Okay, so now, just as a recap, in 2020 version 2025, you can use cutter comp now in hole pocketing and hole profiling. Hole pocketing and hole profiling is the go-to operation if you need to cut a larger hole with exacting tolerances For example, if you're going to press fit or do a slip fit or a loose fit of a bearing or a bearing sleeve, okay, you can use hole pocketing, specifically hole profiling, to get an exact hole diameter that you need without using a boring bar. And we have a video, and I'll put a link to it in the description, of one of our users using it exactly like that and getting the exact slip fit that he needed. No boring bar, just using hole pocketing and profiling.